Let's pray. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you tonight and with thanksgiving in our hearts and for what you have done in our city and the opportunity to do the work here for the city. And so go with us now as we make decisions and give us wisdom and give us open minds and hearts to do that work. Bless us now, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1.
Here.
Sorry, I'm not Carrie.
But
But I am here.
Jace Step, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
Taft Friend, Ward 6.
Should I say here for Taft?
Thank you, Julia.
Take care of Jace.
Yeah, we're going to approve the council meeting minutes for the August 5th council meeting minutes. Also, the special called meeting that was held on August 12th and earlier today on the 19th. And council, you were issued council meeting minutes. You were also sent a revised copy of tonight and had a chance to look those over. So if there are any other edits that need to be made to any of those three items, if you would note that now, and if there are not, then a motion's in order, and I'd like to ask that motion to be approving all three of those meetings minutes.
Make a motion to approve all three meeting minutes.
Second.
Have amended.
As amended.
As amended. Pardon me.
Thank you.
As amended.
Thank you. Second as amended. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the minutes are approved unanimously. Mr. Reinhardt, if you will get us started, this will be the third of three public hearings for the establishment of the discussion of the city M&O millage rate.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and Council, as you said, this is the third public hearing for the establishment of the Cartersville M&O millage rate to be set at 2.91 mils. The property taxes for the Cartersville M&O property tax collections are used for the general city government, i.e. police, fire, recreation, so forth and so on. The proposed 2021 millage rate is 2.91 mils and is not the rollback rate. The rollback rate is 2.785 mils. As a result, the rate of 2.91 mils is considered to be a property tax increase of 4.49% over the rollback rate. The tax increase on a house with a fair market value of $125,000 will be roughly about $6.25. Again, this is the third public hearing for this agenda item.
Thank you, Tom. And as I've mentioned in the other hearings, that, again, the pie has gotten bigger. We are just taking advantage of the pie getting bigger from growth so we can provide services. The state is allowed to have their pie grow as rather substantially without calling it a tax increase. If we increase ours by 1 penny, we have to call it a tax increase. Right. The millage rate is staying the same. And, well, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom on this at this time? Thank you. I'll open up a public hearing for the city M&O millage rate. Anybody wishing to step forward and speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I will close the public hearing for the city M&O millage rate. There's no action needed by council at this time. We'll work on, give it to council for consideration later on in this meeting. We'll move forward now, and Randy, if you'll get us started with AZ 21-06.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, this application has been properly posted and advertised. Appears to be no conflicts of interest. This is a de-annexation request for two properties located on the southeast side, south of Highway 113. I believe the properties are 1405 and 1413. Highway 113. They were annexed in approximately 30 years ago, 1990, 1991. With that, the applicants are requesting that it be withdrawn from the city jurisdiction. It seems to make sense. None of those properties around it, the other single-family homes in that particular area, are all in Bartow County jurisdiction, not in the city's jurisdiction. There is city jurisdiction across Highway 113. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this de-annexation request. The city departments have reviewed it, provided comments, and Bartow County has reviewed the application also.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Menino at this time? Thank you. We'll open up a public hearing for AZ 2106 and ask anybody wishing to step forward who care to speak for or against to do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for AZ 2106. This is the first reading. We'll take this up for final consideration at our next regularly scheduled meeting. Randy, if you'll move us on to SU 2105.
Thank you again. This case has also been properly posted and advertised and reviewed by the standards for special use permits. This particular property, 323 North Tennessee Street, has an existing special use permit that was approved in 2019 for a title pond. Actual regular pawn shop does require a special use permit also. With that, the applicant is looking to add some additional items to what they do at that particular location. Did require the special use application. It has been through the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval of the special use permit to allow a full pond as opposed to a title pond at that location. They did also attach some recommendations with no outside storage and no outside storage of vehicles. The applicant was fine with that particular addition to the, or condition on the application.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Menino at this time? Thank you, sir. I'll open up a public hearing for SU 2105. And again, ask anybody wishing to step forward and speak for or against to do so at this time. And when doing so, please your name and your address for our clerk, please.
Wesley Simmons, 33 Olivine Church Road, Rattle, Georgia. I am here for the applicant. I really don't have much to add, but I am available if you do have any questions. Just some background, we did petition for a variance for the title pond a few years ago. That was granted. The client is only seeking a jewelry and firearms permit. So it's not going to be, we're not seeking any outside storage, in the conditions that the board asked for last hearing are perfectly agreeable.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Simmons this time? Thank you. Anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I will close the public hearing for SU 21-05. And again, our first reading, we'll take this up for final consideration 2 Thursdays from now. Can't remember what day that is.
September the 2nd.
Thank you, September the 2nd. Randy, if you'll continue us on, please, sir.
Thank you again. This request is dealing with the alcohol ordinance. This is a wholesale distilled spirits ordinance amendment to allow wholesale distilled spirits in the ordinance. Currently, we only allow for wholesale beer and wholesale wine. Apparently, distilled spirits was left out. Somebody is seeking a distributor's license for distilled spirits. Going back through the ordinance, it wasn't there. They were also going to be doing wholesale beer, and they did get that license approved, and they're waiting to amend that license if this text amendment does go through. With that, the Alcohol Control Board did recommend approval of this 5-0.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Randy at this time? Thank you. Is there any discussion, clarification needed for council on this time? Seeing none, again, first reading of an ordinance. It requires 2 readings, and we will take this up for consideration at our meeting on September the 2nd. Mr. Forsythe, you're up, sir.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is a submersible premix mixer for our water pollution control plant. It is for the replacement. Actually, it says repair on there. The repair cost was $18,216. The replacement with a brand new mixer is $20,840.16. We're recommending approval of the replacement of this mixer.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Sydney on this? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Morgan, you are up. You've got the next handful here.
Come before the council tonight asking for approval on 4 vehicles that we'll be purchasing out of our operating revenue. 3 additional vehicles we also have, they were all bid out. They were all according to our policy. The other 3 vehicles will be lease pool vehicles. So I'm asking for approval for those.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? And if there's none, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. You good?
The motion needs to be include at least 3 of them.
Okay, so let's redo that again, and the motion needs to state that 4 are out of
3.
purchase and 3 in lease pool?
Yes.
Motion to approve purchase of the vehicles, 4 for purchase from operating funds, 1 from the lease pool.
3 for
3 from
3
lease.
from the lease pool, 1 from operating.
That was total 7.
A total of 7 cars. 4 for purchase.
4 for purchase.
I can't do it for you, Lease.
Here. I'm here.
Who's second? You're going to second the second? Thank you. Second the same. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We really could do this often, just not our first time.
Freddie, if you'll please continue on with the lease agreement on Cherokee Avenue.
Yes, sir. It's a lease agreement for 324 and 326 West Cherokee Avenue. What we've done is put in place a automatic rollover unless the council opts out by December or January of each year. But it also allows us to put in place the additional requirements that the lease goes up every year to cover those other items.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Freddie. Mr. Sanders, you're up, sir.
Mayor, council, this is an order from Georgia DOT about revising state highway system designations. You can see from the map, there's about 7 different changes that are proposed. And the bottom line is none of them really impact the city. Our responsibility, the mileage in the city stays the same. There's no financial impacts. It's basically just renaming. So we recommend approval.
All right. Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I do have a question.
Sure.
Now that you've
Thank
passed,
you.
what would have happened if we didn't pass that?
It's their roads. I think it's just them playing nice, maybe.
Okay.
They can rename them if they want to. They don't need our permission, I don't think.
That's what I was thinking. Thank you. Dan, you've got the next item, please.
Yes, Mayor, we have received a special event application from East End Productions for the requesting the closing of East Cherokee Avenue between Tennessee Street and Stonewall for October 3rd for a free concert to be hosted on that date. And he'd like to have it closed from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. In order to adequate space for food trucks and attendees. As part of the application approval, the applicant has requested the city pay for our two required fire personnel, off-duty personnel, which is a cost of $780 estimated cost, and also the cost of police personnel, police and supervisors, which we're anticipating a cost of $4,040. If the application is approved, the traffic plan will have to be designed by the Cartersville Police Department, working in conjunction with East End Productions. And also this additional information, the applicant plans to provide alcohol at its 2 business locations on the premises. The EMTs, first aid, security, again, he was requesting the city do that. And then the security area, applicant proposes an open area without controlled entrances with signs being posted in the area saying no alcohol allowed. This is again a request by the applicant. And I'm not sure if there's somebody here from East End.
Okay. Thank you. What do y'all want to do? Would you like to hear from the applicant?
Yes.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Come on up, and if you would, please, sir, your name and your address so we can get that for our clerk, please.
Sure, Mr. Mayor and council members. Brennan Swing, 55 Bucky Street. I did provide printouts for each one of you.
If you'll make sure, you have one to hand to our clerk, please? Thank you. And then I think there's a couple media folks here that we'll make sure y'all get those if you want them.
We also have a PDF.
This was in our packet anyway. This is what's in the packet.
That's the last two.
This is the last two or not? Okay.
Yeah, all this should be in the packet except for the final sheet, which is the methodology used to get the estimated capacity based on 3 people per 5 foot by 5 foot square, so 25 square foot. The expected crowd size is going to be 1,500, so that's well less than half of the expected capacity or estimated capacity.
I'm sorry, you said 3 people per 5 by 5 square?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then I know there was some issue with where the porta potties and the triage first aid was placed. The alternate option for that is on the corner where Homestead Properties is. There's an access road there where the triage could be and the restrooms could be down next to Game of Thrones. And I just want to verify that we are using CDC events and gatherings readiness and planning tool to plan this event. And I'm going to be the certified crowd manager, and we're going to have 10 crowd managers. I'm going to be a train the trainer. So we'll have those as well as the police. And I'm trying to think of anything else. We will have cups, clear cups, that will have the logo of the festival on it. That way, if the police do see anybody outside of that perimeter with those cups, then they can take action. Nobody should be drinking out of anything but those cups. There's no coolers allowed. You can bring chairs in. And there will be CDC signs about wearing masks and social distancing. And then everything, the way I'm doing the timeline, everything would be cleaned, and the place would be like it was before we even started by 10 p.m. that night. The trailers for the stage come in on semis that are parked behind the stage. It actually is the semi-trailer bed, and it just pops up, pops back. They're out of there. And then the 2 garbage dumpsters that will be filled at the end of the night will be picked up the next day. Are there any other questions?
What is a crowd trainer?
That's a crowd manager.
Excuse me, okay.
So it's the International Firefighters Association designation for crowd. You're looking for safety. The main goal of this is to have a safe but fun event. Mm-hmm. So those crowd managers are trained in what to look for, when to get a police's attention, when to notice if somebody's overly intoxicated. This is an older group because of the bands that we have playing, so we don't foresee that, but that's what the crowd managers are for. They just go through the crowd, look for anything suspicious. It's just another level of security.
And you said you train them. What kind of training does it take?
It's a 2-hour training to get certified, and then you can train the trainer, so I will be the one assessing the final test for the other 9 people after I train them for the 2 hours.
Mr. Mayor, that is something that the fire department, as part of our process, they will have to see the certifications that these individuals are certified, that they have enough crowd managers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
You said you were talking about moving the first aid and the restroom to another location.
Yes. So the restrooms could be along this edge or this back edge, and then the triage first aid would be over here where this access is for the ambulance if we needed it.
And if they're willing to move the triage and the restrooms, are they willing to put fencing on that piece of property so that patrons or your guests or concert goers can't be on that piece of property?
Yes. I mean, if we had to do that, the one, the high school has already approved parking, so that's going to be a natural flow for people who want to walk in, so I did make that entrance. However, if that's blocked and we can keep people pushing all the way around to the main entrance, we can do that. And since it's a free to the public event, so if you have to walk a little bit farther, I'm kind of okay with that.
So are you planning to have one entrance in and out, or is this a porous deal where people can walk from anywhere?
No, we're planning on putting fencing, so that the perimeter, you don't have to have any fencing here, obviously, but we will have the streets blocked. We'll have 10 foot of road clearance for fire and rescue to come in next to the food trucks. They can't have anything like put out in front of the food trucks or anything. This access over here would be open on the other side of the triage. If we move the triage over here, but I think even though I probably wouldn't put the fence here. I still want to make that a safe, that's going to be a natural egress if something were to happen. But it's not going to be fencing that's hard. It's going to be that kind of wrap, the tinted kind of fabric. So you can just knock it over if you needed to. But
So what if we were to say that we would want that whole, what is that, the northern side? That we would want fencing along that northern side, and that we would kind of want an enclosed area with different points of entry that are being monitored?
yeah. It doesn't affect the event. So whatever makes sense for the council and the city, we can make whatever
So
happen.
you would not be opposed to having a fenced area for this festival zone with different points of entry that you're monitoring?
Yeah, crowd members would monitor that.
Okay.
And then, so, you know, the viewing angle is like that, you can't see anything from here, so it's useless space, that's why it's good for triage and documents. You just put it on the outside perimeter, it's the same thing.
I guess my only another question, well, that's ingress egress to CVS. Do you have their approval to close that?
David said he had approval for all the adjacent businesses except for one, so I'm not for sure.
Because there's a difference between the tenant and the owner.
Agreed.
But if you fence that off there by the Homestead Hospital.
They won't use it.
And then it's not gonna have that blocked anymore.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to walk there and see that fence, but we can put signs at that, like a little crossing right here. That say, continue to go around.
Yeah.
Put signs over at the high school, parking, that say, you know, walk. What I'm planning on doing is having maps on the site and all that stuff that show, like, where's approved parking, here's the routes to get in, here's,
Gotcha.
all that stuff's going to be part of the package when you sign it. Well, it's going to be free, but all the marketing that we're doing. I'm also planning on having letter-sized maps for EMS, police, and crowd managers to have all the pickup points and everything on it, so they would have those. And I would be giving out timelines for when stuff's set up, when stuff's broke down, all that kind of stuff. So everybody's going to know what's good, full transparency of everything that's going on.
Okay. Well, let's talk about what you're planning.
We're discussing this CVS issue.
Okay.
I think it's important that they are okay with that access being blocked off for people coming and going there. That's all I'm saying, so.
About people pulling in through there?
Yeah, see, we're closing that street. You're getting permission from all these businesses that are adjacent to this event. And they're saying, yes, it's okay for you to close this street. I think you're okay to close the street using my parking, I think is what the document says. CVS, that's their entrance and exit for their, that's one of the entrance and exits for their drugstore.
One of three, yes.
So they need to sign off and say, hey, it's okay for y'all to close that entrance and exit if you're getting them from all those other property owners.
Okay.
The same would hold true for them.
So it's, so I know how to move forward. Is this, where does the largest property stop? Does it stop there?
At the signs where they say no parking, right there.
Right there?
No, no.
Not
it's-
against, it's right against the
It's
building.
all, this is like a zero lot line.
Yeah.
Okay, so it would, so we don't want anybody in this area.
Yeah, the ingress egress is right there. That's in effect a road to, a drive to CVS. All I'm saying is they need to be aware that you're closing their drive.
Yes, agreed.
You mean their entrance from East Cherokee?
Yes.
Okay, now I get it.
Because the property owner who owns that is the drive, that is a open drive entrance to CVS.
Okay,
So that's what I'm saying, there's a difference between the tenant and the owner.
agreed.
The owner, you know,
If that was one of two entrances, I would, it makes more sense, but it's one of three entrances.
I'll
So,
let
but,
you take that with the owner.
yeah,
Or-
okay, no worries.
What is your decibel count from your concert? What are you looking, decibel minimum?
It's in the contract that's in the application
I don't think
from
we have
T&E Elements.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Where do you see that on?
It's TE Atlanta, the contract for TE Atlanta, the stage company. Marshall Tucker Band was the only one that had a rider that specified certain equipment and certain sound levels.
You want to, here's the application you guys submitted if you want to find that number, that decibel number.
And I guess the only thing I would ask, and I think where we're going this is, we need to make sure that whatever their requirements are don't exceed what the city's noise ordinance is.
Correct.
And if they do, we just need you to work with the artist on that rider. And again, most of those things, you just scratch through whatever their decibel requirements are, and you write whatever what you're able to have. We can't change the ordinance just for their.
Correct. They don't
And again,
have
I don't see it being a large hoop to get over, but I think we do need to
No, it's something good to point out.
address it.
I don't see in their rider where they specify the decimal, they're specifying the sound. So the equipment that's used, whatever the decibel is, I can have that communicated.
And Mayor, I was asking, so back to, we got a couple things going on here. We got a festival song and then we have a road closed, right? So Gary, back to your comment, because just so we get this right, you're concerned about CVS and the road closure.
Yeah, the road closure, you've got forms from all these people that are touching, that are affected by the road being closed.
Correct.
You're notifying them. So what I'm saying is CVS should be one of those in these lists.
As an opinion or per the city rules?
It would have to be per the city rule because that's their drive, one of their driveways.
That's private property.
It's an easement. You're closing access to they need to be.
Is it an actual easement or is it?
Yes,
sort of-
it's an easement.
Okay, so then
It's part of their lease.
what? Because we're a city, we've got to know, do we notify them or do we have to have their approval?
Well, we can't close their easement. I think what Gary's saying, they've got 3 access points, and we're closing off one of those access points.
For this
Right.
single day. All I'm saying is we need to have a
They need to be
form
okay
from
with it.
CVS saying it's okay, like you have from all these other people.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
But ultimately, we need to decide whether it's the leasee or the leaseor who gives the permission. We still haven't decided that, have we?
No, I'm sorry.
We haven't decided if it's the owner or the tenant that gives the approval, right?
I think we decided it should be both.
Okay.
I think to cover your bases,
Typically,
yeah.
if there's a lease, and of course, we haven't seen all the lease agreements, but, you may have a lease agreement that specifically prohibits, where the landlord specifically prohibits a tenant from doing ABC. And
Right.
if we're giving them permission to do ABC, we may be, stepping on that landlord's toes, but we don't know that.
That was my impression, that if it was within the agreement from the owner if it was specified that you couldn't do this certain thing, then they had to agree to it. If not, the leasee could agree to it, if it wasn't in the contract.
So I would just make a note to council, if that is something that you want to consider, when we get down the road of making motions, you may want to consider having any approval pending the submission of approval from CVS. Either, you can either put it in there or not. I don't know if that solves what your issue is. I don't know that that's.
I mean, just common sense, plain and simple.
I mean, I think if we
I
have the right
don't
to
think
close.
CVS is gonna have a problem, but if they were, in my opinion, it's 7 hours on a Sunday, doing something for the community, suck it up. But, you know, that's me.
Well, I would also say we have a right to close a road, and if that road's closed, they're not gonna have access to it either. And again, my feeling would be is that if the whole thing is fenced in, I mean, really and truly, you would want it fenced anyway, because you don't want somebody wandering through that parking lot and accidentally driving out into the middle of the festival zone.
Oh, it was already going to have barriers, regardless if people were walking through there or not.
But it would be nice. I mean, it's a nice gesture of CVS. I'm sure they won't have a problem. But I guess moving, so looking at this second sheet here, because I know that I sat through one meeting and there's been some questions about number of occupants. So it appears moving that grid is going to go into your nice blue and green area. Or are you going to go outside of that?
Yeah, that's what we did. This triage right here would come here.
Okay.
And then you would put the fencing here, actually, and then barricades here, because you don't want anybody on the property, is what you guys have said. So you need to fence this off so these people don't come into this area. And then you need to block this so cars don't come in this way. So this is just empty.
Well, and I think that's the other part is you would need to just coordinate with CVS to make sure that you're putting it, I mean, if that is on their property, you need to get permission to put fencing on their property or a barrier, but I can't, again, if the road's closed, I would think from a safety perspective, I can't imagine that being a really high hurdle to get over.
And then there were some comments earlier in the work session about some of these, well, to here, just to the right, let's just say. In that Brandon East agency, there's multiple businesses in there. Did we get letters from all of those or just one? And I think the one council person had been reached out to, that they didn't want anybody parking in theirs. You guys fine with
Correct.
blocking off that
Yes,
area?
that's what I'm saying. Like, what we want to do is have all of our approved parking set now, get this site up and have those maps and everything, and then put signs there that say no parking. Probably put a sign that has the map that shows you where you can park, just for user experience. But like I said, I want it to be fun and safe and neighborly. I don't want to do anything that's not going to make somebody want to not do this again. I want this to be something that the city rallies around.
How long have you been doing these events, and about how many have you done?
I've been doing this since 2003 in Nashville. I couldn't even count how many I've done.
So one other question, the parking that you're looking at for this event, is it mainly east of Stonewall?
Yes.
And east of Tennessee Street?
Yes. So Dave's working on, there's one church right there, or something that's there that he's working on.
No, that's the opposite.
That's the opposite. Yeah, so that's on the other side.
I'd leave them out of it.
That's what he's working on, and he's already got the high school's approval on that street over there.
So, I wish you had a bigger map there, but, so the church, what church are you talking about? Tabernacle?
Tabernacle, yes.
So David is talking to Tabernacle about
Correct.
using their parking?
Correct.
Okay, so you're having this on a Sunday, so let's just think about this for a second.
This is after church, yeah.
So it starts at 8, right? The-
No.
So-
Starts at
So
like
the
2.
application says 8 to 10, so I'm just going off that number.
Oh, so,
when do you
yes.
think people will arrive?
People will start
Let's start at that number.
Yeah. People would start arriving around 1:30, and that would be for the initial band. That's not going to be that full 1,500. That's going to be for Carl Weathersby, so that's going to be blues fans. You're probably going to have 500 people at that time. As the day gets older or later, you're going to get more and more people coming to get there prior to Marshall Tucker. Marshall Tucker will be the headliner. Probably an hour before they come on is when you're going to have that max occupancy.
So,
I mean, I'll say it. There are a couple of things, and the school system still hasn't approved it, but it's in process.
Yeah.
So we're fine with that.
Okay.
I've had communications with the church who are not opposed to the concert, but are concerned that their Sunday night services are going to be impeded by people using the parking lot. They want their congregants to be able to use that parking lot to attend Sunday night services. So, and again, I'm not scolding her, I'm just saying that I'm saying that parking lot is not going to be an option. So if he says he's working on getting that, he doesn't need to be doing that, because I've heard directly from the church that it's not available. So
I can relay
I
that
just say that
message.
as part of your, as your parking lot.
Absolutely.
But we did receive 2 letters from Ameris Bank and Synovus that those parking.
That's what, yes, we did have part of the application.
Those were emailed later.
well, mainly my question was just to have a fuller or better understanding of
Yeah, what's gonna happen-
what you're looking at
Yeah.
parking, because
What's going to happen at 8 in the morning, it's going to be, this stuff's going to start coming in, setting up. So road closure. The road closure.
Okay.
It's not going to be the parking.
What time's the music start? About 1:30?
1:30, you had mentioned 1:30, 3:30, 5:30.
Yeah.
That was what I saw.
We'll be done by 6:30 at the latest, and then everything will be cleaned by 10.
And I guess I'm just, because we're all, at 6 o'clock, we're all experiencing this for the first time, right? So were you guys in Cartersville. So, question, obviously you got, we don't have the high school, we do have 2 letters from the banks. Per the 1,500 expected, what, and maybe that's not, maybe it's for Tommy in the back to answer, but how many parking spots would you probably need?
I'd say you're going to need probably around between 350 and 400.
Do we know if
That's plenty. I mean,
there is?
if I were to,
That's downtown Cartersville, right?
yeah, I mean, downtown is, there's going to be ample parking there. You've got, the county courthouse, as long as it doesn't impede with what's going on at Sam Jones. I mean, there's public parking that's in the area. So I don't know that,
So we're
I guess I would just kind of gear you towards looking to those as options versus
Absolutely.
this lot over here, because it's really not an option for you.
Perfect.
So in your experiences, sir, with all your events that you've done in Nashville and other places, is it common practice for other cities to pay for the security?
It's about 50/50. It
Just depends?
Yeah. Depends how much the city's invested in it versus, if this one's less of a for-profit. When it's for-profit, usually no.
Right.
But when it's something like this, free, open to the public, those kind of things, then usually, yeah.
Okay.
Is the city usually involved in those things on the front end, or
Excuse me?
is the city usually involved in those type of things on the front end when they're planning an event like that?
Yes.
Okay.
but this is for profit.
No. We're
I mean,
getting,
they're not charging fees to get in?
we're not charging fees to get in.
Right.
But
It's all sponsored.
It is for business. It is for a specific business, though, right? I mean, they're not.
No, we're
donating-
gonna have about 14 sponsors, and then we are picking a charity, either Toys for Tots, or we're gonna be getting cash donations.
But, I mean, Drown Valley is not giving beer away for free. I mean, they're selling it. This is
No,
a
yes.
for-profit business.
Yes, but,
I mean,
yeah.
this is to
But they're
boost
sponsoring
their-
as well.
It is to boost their business and their presence, so.
It'll boost the business in the future. It's not going to do it that day.
Right. Just so we know, it's not It is for profit, but, because I think that's when we look at the city and we're putting money into a private business, that is, we don't, other people who need security, we require them to pay for their own security, we require them to pay for their own things. We don't do that for them, so.
Agreed.
For a
But
specific.
because this is
private
free,
business.
so the whole idea is, for me, I'm not speaking for David, is that I love Cartersville. I want to have events here that bring people from outside the area, more people that come to Cartersville, that makes them want to come move here, like, make it a destination like Woodstock or Canton is. That's my motivation. So, but I can't speak for David.
Yeah, I think and I'll just sort of echo sort of what Kerry's saying, and I think Matt has said it multiple times. I mean, we have events downtown, right? Right here in our lovely little square, and, you know, we have them throughout the year, and we design them as festival zones, and, you know, when we go through the planning with them, they understand that cost is there. And, you know, yet, to David and to you, this is probably a special event, right? It's a big event that's not normally like the others downtown, but in the essence of fairness, you know, this is sort of what we've been doing and what we intend to continue, you know.
Which is
And
totally
that's
fine. That's
yeah.
something he's asked for.
Yeah.
If
If
the
you don't
event, if
ask-
the event could be approved without the funding of that, I don't think he's going to cancel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are we trying to form a motion here to get this thing passed, or are we gonna hold until we get some answers? How are we moving forward as far as, how are y'all seeing this?
Well, I was going to ask about before we get to that, the number of people, you said, I mean, since it's free, is there going to be any control over you said there's, by your numbers, there's room for 1,500.
No, there's room for 3,750.
Okay.
What I'm judging this by is what normally comes to a Marshall Tucker Band concert, which is
Okay.
normally around 1,200 people.
Okay.
But because it's new to Cartersville, you might get an extra people just coming in because it's free, so, you know, it's rounded up to another 300 people. But if you're not into that music, you're not going to come. You might come and leave just to check it out, but it's not something where you have like arts and other stuff to do, like what we normally do downtown. It's,
Yeah,
you're
so
there for one main reason.
Is there any control over the number of people that are coming into this space, I guess is my.
That'll be the crowd managers, yes.
Okay, so at some point, let's say 5,000 or more people show up.
That would be crazy, but yeah.
Yeah.
At some point, you'd be telling people.
I have to consider that sort of thing,
Yeah,
yes.
no, yeah. I mean, that would be amazing.
So, but, I mean, at some point, they can't get into the festival zone, is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
absolutely.
Okay.
And the crowd managers are going to be, like I said, we're following the CDC large gatherings protocol, and the crowd managers will be telling people to space out. We can't force anybody to do that, but just as an acknowledgement of, hey, you guys might want to think about this. Are you with the same household kind of thing? It's just polite.
Okay. Ms. Hodge, to answer your question, any motion could be made with anything at any time, and council can do with it what they wish.
The only other question I have is this traffic plan. So I'm confused on who is responsible for the traffic plan. East Productions, the city, both of us?
The city.
Together?
They would request us to do the traffic plan if approved. That'd be something in conjunction with our police and public works.
Okay.
Chief, is that something that's,
That's not a problem.
okay, thank you.
Well, one of our big issues was that section that you appear to not actually have to have.
We don't have to have it, no.
So that's good. I like the fact that he's addressed some of these boundaries. So I guess clear this up for me on the back side, because this is something that I think that we were all, so down there on the homestead properties, Is that Graham Construction as well? I assume you have letters from their,
Graham Construction has submitted a letter, yes.
is there gonna be like boundaries there so people can't just walk through there?
Correct. From Game of Thrones to this corner to the stage is that mesh fencing.
Okay, cool.
And how high is that mesh fencing?
How high do you want it?
12 feet. I'm just kidding.
Honestly,
Is it a
it's
3-foot fence? Is it a 6
it's
foot?
4 to 5 foot.
Okay,
yeah.
that's fine, thank you. I was just trying to get scale of if it was like a silt fence or if it, what it was.
No, all of these sponsors are going to have, so around that whole fence, you know, one of the things to get them to sponsor is all the logos from all the businesses that are sponsoring within Cartersville are printed on that.
Okay. So we are talking about, for all intents and purposes, a closed-in area.
Correct.
I think that makes a lot of us feel a little better about it. You know, having sort of, hey, this is the point that you enter, this is the point you exit. That appeases a little bit. I guess the only other thing is making sure that, you know, if y'all are fine with owners and tenants, you know, I know that we asked you and you went through that process and things aren't as quickly, but, you know, more communication with that top end, Brandon East, it just has his, you know, he's getting a lot of publicity here. But there's other people in there.
Okay.
And then the same thing with CVS and that Homestead Hospice and is it New Beginnings? What is it?
New Beginnings.
I can tell you they've asked for fencing and no access to their property, which you said earlier is not an issue.
Yeah, not at all. I think as part of the letters, that should be a checkbox on there, like, will you allow parking or will you not? Yes, no, sign it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you get those checked off, I mean, do we do it where it's contingent upon those? And then if it's not, we revisit or?
Then what, yeah.
I don't think they're gonna have any issues.
Right, I think there's plenty of parking. I mean, you're gonna be parking right there, but there's plenty of parking out.
When we met last time, I preferred that those were blocked, like you don't allow sparse parking. I'd rather have parking altogether. That way it's easier for the police to kind of watch coming out.
But I think, you know, I think there's enough parking, you know, east of Stonewall and some different things, that you wouldn't have to be engaged with the church, you know.
I think so, yeah.
And I think that, and then I think if you did go downtown, if you did have to have parking downtown, it's walkable to that site easily, so.
And I would actually prefer that because some of the people that are going to come to Carl Weathersby aren't going to stay for Leroy Parnell or Marshall Tucker Band. So if they come in the afternoon, they want to come back downtown to do, like, have dinner or something, like that, their car's already there, it's something to kind of, you know, provide those businesses as well, but.
I'd really encourage, I know that he wants this for his business down there, but we have Sam Smith Park and some other great venues in the city that trying to shove this right down there is just, you know, that little bit difficult. I'd really love to see, you know, Sam Smith.
But the next show you do, you come to us.
Hey.
And we'll come up with a great
He
venue,
came to me.
and we'll
Now I know.
I understand. Hey, and I think the thing that everybody agrees, we're tasked to make sure that public safety is looked after.
Absolutely.
And quite honestly, what's important to all of us is that this event and this applicant is treated exactly the same as every other applicant.
I think that's fair.
Not one iota worse or not one iota better.
Absolutely.
And as Councilman Roth mentioned during the work session, this area, historically, festival zones have been on public property. This involves private property, and so please don't construe our discussion and our questions
not
as
at all.
not being thankful or happy that this event is going on. I think by and large, all of us are thrilled that there's an event of this type coming here. We just have to make sure, obviously, that people are safe and that at the same time, we're treating everybody the exact same way. And I would think
perfect.
anybody would want that to happen. So we're just trying to work through that to get there. I feel that with the fencing requirements, or with the fencing that's going to be done and with the controlled ingress and egress, I do think there's going to be enough downtown parking without impeding on, now, the question is, how do you control, where people park? And
I think he said he was gonna put out a map of, hey, here's
Well,
where
there's
places
traffic.
are to be to park.
If I was in that one meeting, but I think that's part of the.
Traffic
the
plan.
police,
Traffic plan. Yeah.
And the traffic plan is they'll be monitoring the perimeter, so when people pull up, they'll be sent to the parking area.
And we're going to have signs, directional
I think there's a difference
signage.
between the traffic plan and the traffic implementation.
Yes, a lot of that's going to be
Of such.
signage that's pointing people to the parking. But I don't see it really being an issue. Because this is an older group, people are more civilized, to be honest.
Do we have to get, do we, when we're approving this or, making a motion, so we would amend this festival zone not to include, I don't know the property, address. So you'd say, hey, we're not including,
5 Tennessee Street.
is that what that is?
What is it?
5 Tennessee Street.
I think it is. Look at Google Maps.
Okay.
So why wouldn't you just say that the northern end of the festival zone is the northern side of East Cherokee Avenue?
Because it takes in Largo's.
Yeah.
Largo.
Well, two of them.
I
I
think
understand, I know what you're saying.
All right, I'm gonna give this a shot. Y'all ready?
Well, but I need to know, do we need to specify the exact fence boundary, or, we end up in a situation where we just trust and then we show up on that?
No, I can go ahead and re-render everything and send it back to show all that.
You need to specify a festival zone. I think the ordinance requires that.
I think it'd be good if they resubmitted their application based on council approval and included the fenced-in area, so I can share that with you and make sure that's okay with what's been discussed this evening.
So you want them to resubmit before we move forward?
I can, if the council wants to give myself and the attorney approval based on them submitting the information, that's up to council, so there's not a delay, but I definitely would like them to submit that here's the fenced-in area, so it's all clear. They totally understand that this is fenced in.
So, and I guess the way that would sound would be that if this were to be that you would approve the festival zone subject to approval of subject to the resubmittal of the application that would be for review by city manager, approval by city manager and city attorney. Is that-
And we could also provide updates, so once we get the traffic plan and get all that set in, provide that drawing, overhead drawing back, and that's normally.
So we need to amend the zone by either address or left of Largo's. And then.
The address is 5 North Tennessee Street.
Okay, so 5 North Tennessee Street to be removed from the festival zone. That's simple enough. And then, but nothing about the fencing?
I got it in here.
Okay. Good luck.
Would
Gonna
it-
give it a shot?
would-
Gary, you ready?
Would it be okay if you did a 5-foot fence along that
Gary said
eastern
he's not
Cherokee
ready.
road? I know you're doing a 4-foot fence around the rest of it, but yes, on that border, could you do a 5 or a 6-foot easily? Sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
could you address the funding of the public safety? Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, so I'm gonna give this a shot.
Hold on a second.
Oh,
We're in high school.
One brief comment, don't apply no order, because I know they'll work it out. Just understand that by the requirement of the fencing, which has not been discussed, we'll have to add a training component for your crowd manager so they know how to drop the fence. If there is a situation, then that'll be a part of our instant action plan. We're fine with it. But there's so much space that we have to have for egress, for escaping, if you fence it in, but we can work that out. It's just true.
That's something I want to add.
And Chief, I do have a question for you now that I guess for either one of the chiefs. Openings in those fences for egress, is there like a standard for how, there needs to be an opening for so many feet? And I guess you'll address that when you work with them. We don't need to know that, but okay. But you'll make sure that all that's followed.
Yes.
Thank you. You all good with that?
we ready?
This is gonna be the longest motion in the
This is
history of
gonna
the
be
city
the
of Cartersville.
longest
I'm
motion
ready.
in history.
I'm here.
You ready? You wanna do it? You wanna do it? Okay, so I am going to make an approval for David Holt's festival area to be approved pending a reapplication be submitted to the city, that the owners and the tenants all have to agree to have the festival as part of the zone. We also are going to request that the cost of the security, the city requirements be met by the applicant. That includes all expenses, any traffic plans. All that needs to be coordinated with our fire and police department, okay? Also, we're going to remove 5 North Tennessee Street altogether from your zone so that that property owner is happy. And then Chief Carter again has addressed the fact that since we are going to have the fencing, that is a requirement. If he has any extra things you need to do to make sure the crowd control is there and you know how to remove that fencing properly for emergencies, he's going to help you get that training done. I think I've covered everything I had in my mind. Yep, she said that. Yeah, that's already there. CVS is in that owner and tenant.
Okay.
I think we've covered everything so that hopefully this goes off smoothly for you. I don't think any of us are against it. I just want it to be smooth.
It'll be smooth.
I think we've got a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. All right, let's get on to the fun stuff.
You're welcome.
Come on, Tom.
Yep.
So, Matt, our ordinance has it, that's one limit in there.
Yes.
I thought the fun stuff was here, everybody's leaving. Honorable Mayor and Council, this is the second reading of the Cartersville City of Cartersville M&O millage rate to be set at 2.91 mils. I went over this earlier this evening. We have had the 3 necessary public hearings required by the state. Again, this basically will increase on a house that's valued at $125,000, about $6.25 for the year. I would like to recommend approval of the Cartersville M&O property tax millage rate to be set at 2.91 mils for 2021.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Honorable Mayor and Council, the next one is also second reading. This is for the general obligation Parks and Recreation property tax millage rate set to be at 0.713 mils for 2021. If you remember, back in 2014, the citizens approved a referendum for the city to issue bonds to have renovations and improvements done for the Parks and Recreation building properties. The bond was for a 10-year payback period. In order to make scheduled payments, the money received for this tax property will be used to pay those bonds off. Again, this is to be set at 0.713 mils. I recommend approval of the City of Cartersville Geo Parks and Recreation Bond Tax Millage Rate to be set at 0.713 mils for 2021.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Third one on my list is also a second reading. This is for the Cartersville Business Improvement District, or the BID. This is made up of downtown Cartersville Business District. The businesses owners have been self-assessing a property tax for many years to raise funds for use in the downtown area. The DDA, or the Downtown Development Authority, basically works with the local businesses to use the funds for improvements for the downtown area. The DDA board requests that the city approve the recommended bids property tax millage rate at 1.233 mils for 2021. This is the rollback rate, and I recommend approval of the Cartersville Business Improvement District property tax millage rate to be set at 1.233 mils for 2021.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Once again, this is a second reading for this. This is for, excuse me 1 second. This is for this Cartersville school system millage rate to be set at 13.906 mils for 2021. The Cartersville school system recommended by the board to adopt the 2021 millage rate rollback of 13.906 mils. City council approves the school board's recommended tax millage rate for the city residents where all the property taxes collected for this are remitted to the Cartersville City School System. I recommend approval of the Cartersville City School System property tax millage rate to be set at 13.906 mils for 2021.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Before you give, I'm going to let you catch your breath. We do have an item to add to the agenda, what I almost forgot about. So Chair will entertain a motion to add to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. One item's added. Mr. Archer.
Yeah, I gave you, during work session, 2 letters and an agreement. The first letter, if you just skip over that right now, and I'll come back to it, I want to talk about the one that says partial national opioid settlement announcement update, dated July 28th. All right, this sets out what we're being requested to agree to tonight, and that is a participation agreement in the class action settlement between, let's see, which one is it? Opioid distributors. One of them has agreed to pay $21 billion over 18 years. And let's see, I can't see which one that is. Anyway, the other one is J&J will pay maximum $5 billion over no more than 9 years with a total of $22.8 billion. Now that's a national settlement, and it'll be divided up between the states and the cities that have claims against these 2 companies. In order to participate in that settlement, y'all need, and I recommend that you adopt the participation agreement that is attached to that letter as Exhibit K. It's got, I filled it out with City Cartersville's name on it, and it just sets out what we agreed, that in the event we receive money as determined by that settlement agreement, we would release those 2 companies from any further liability. Standard requirement in an agreement like this. And I would recommend that council adopt that and give the mayor authority to sign it.
Okay. Is that the only action you need us to take?
Yes.
So the Chair will entertain a motion to approve the subdivision settlement participation form and authorize me to sign it.
All right, now the other letter also has to do with opioid litigation. One of the companies, and I can't pronounce that name, August 18 letter, one of the companies has filed bankruptcy. And this letter from President Askew and Barry says that unless we instruct them otherwise, that they will cast a vote for the city and other cities in the state of Georgia, that we would agree to the Chapter 11 reorganization plan. So unless you want to make a motion to not do that, you don't need to do anything, but I need to call him tomorrow and tell him if y'all object to him doing that.
So if we do nothing,
He's going to cast a vote in favor of accepting the reorganization plan.
and that's the course that you recommend us to take?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So let's go back to this other item. Again, a motion would be order.
Motion to approve the subdivision settlement participation form for the mayor to sign.
Yes.
Second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Any other action want to be taken by council on that first part?
Nope.
Good. All right. Tom, got you recharged and ready to go.
That was more fun than I had, huh? Honorable Mayor and Council, we will be looking at the financial report for June 2021 and comparing it to June 2020. keep in mind, June 20, or June, the month of June, June 30th, is our year-end. We will go through the year-end process, getting ready for the audit. The report I have been showing you and will show you tonight is based on a cash basis. As the year-end process is completed, the financial reports will undergo many changes. We will be making journal entries to make it compliance with the GAAP or modified accrual method of accounting. And basically, some of these items that will be changing we'll be adding depreciation expense, bond accruals, revenue, accrued revenue, so forth and so on. So again, the numbers that I'm showing you tonight will change over time, and they will be changed drastically. Some of them will be changed drastically when the auditors actually show you and present their findings. With that being said, general fund revenues increased over last June by $326,000. Expenses decreased by $223,000. A couple areas of revenue I look at in the general fund: local option sales tax. We have a nice increase there of about $334,000 over last June. In billing permits and inspection fees, we have a decrease there of about $55,000. In the water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last June by $317,000. Expenses decreased by $5 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. In the gas fund, the revenues increased over the last year by $1.9 million. Expenses increased by $2.5 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased cost of purchased gas, increased capital expenses, increased debt service expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by about $8,000. Expenses increased by $2.6 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased cost of purchased electricity, increased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. Stormwater fund, revenues decreased from last year by $13,000. Expenses increased by $84,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and decreased capital expenses. Solid waste fund, revenues decreased over last June by $218,000, and expenses increased by $25,000. This is due to increased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, and decreased capital expenses. And finally, the fiber optics fund, revenues increased over last June by $31,000. Expenses decreased by $6,000. This is due to increases in personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, increased debt service expenses, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. In our cash position for the month of June, the unrestricted cash balance has decreased a little bit, and the restricted cash balances also decreased. In the SPLOST accounts balances as of June 30th, SPLOST 2003 has a balance of $49,357.68. SPLOST 2014 has a balance of $304,134.35, and SPLOST 2020 has a balance of $2,937,989.01.
Anything to add?
Mr. Mayor, as Tom alluded to, there will be some changes because this is our fiscal year end, particularly in the utility funds with the depreciation and all. In electric, for instance, the MEAG true-up is a little over $1 million in revenue that'll be booked. It'll help that bottom line. But the bigger news is really the general fund ending it with $2.2 million cash net profit in cash, basically cash balance method until he does some adjusting entries. But from where we started from the fiscal year, it's a testament to our department heads for what they've done to hold the bottom line. And obviously it's helped with Tom and his crew basically to make sure that we were able to receive the money that the federal government gave us, but also just keeping all the departments in line as we went through the fiscal year. So I do appreciate you working that.
I'll add to that, again, it's magnified the job that our department heads did and everybody in the administrative staff did with those numbers ending up after council, again, handed a budget to the city that had 0 new jobs, 0 pay increases, 0 increases in utilities, and holding the millage rate steady. Correct. And so, again, when we were budgeting this, it was March April. We're in the midst of it when March of last year hit, so fine job by all.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Just a note, council, I know you got this, I need to make sure the public knows, we were scheduled our morning meeting on September 18th, public youth, or Civic Youth Day. Those 16th, those events for that day have been canceled. However, our council meeting will still be on that morning. So there just won't be the youth here, but we've already made those plans and things that have been advertised for having me. We will still have the morning meeting that morning, but there will not be the Civic Youth Day activities at that time. So, that being said, any other business needs to come before council? Fine work tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Happy birthday to your mama.
Yeah, I know.
Get there, get out.